everybody. Welcome to my sewing room. My name is Sue and I'm a scrap quilter. I live in Southeast Pennsylvania. So welcome back from all the holidays. I hope everybody had a really nice time. And now that all the holidays are over, all the gifts have been given, now it's time to get in your sewing room and work and get some stuff done for the new year. So I'll kind of show you, I'll catch you up on everything that I've been working on, things that are in progress, and we'll talk about them all for a little bit. The first thing I kind of want to mention here is the quilt that's behind me here. You probably saw that in the last video that we put up, and that was a recap of all the quilts that I finished in 2024. And this was the very last one that I finished. And this is the one I've been working on and off on for probably several years with my little 1-inch pieces to make the stars. And then when I got to like a certain point where I felt I had enough of them, I just went ahead and just made the last couple of stars so that I had enough just to finish this project and get it out of my sewing room. Last year I was kind of on a kick where I was kind of cleaning up things like that, things that had just been sitting around. They hadn't been forgotten. I would kind of work on them slowly, and some things are never quite finished. It's just how I kind of deal with my scraps, but I just wanted to go through certain things and get caught up and get caught up and get caught up. And so this is a project that was able to be 100% finished. So I did that. And I put prairie points on this. I don't know how many of you have ever done prairie points before, but it's a good alternative to just a classic binding. Not every quilt needs a binding on it. I mean, most of them do. It's the easiest way to finish a quilt is put binding on, but they don't all need it. And you can also face a quilt, and you can also do like a knife edge finish on it. But most people do tend to put a binding on. So anyway, with this one, with the prairie points, this came about because, again, how I deal with all my scraps. One of the things I do is I cut things into different sizes of squares, and this box has 3.5-inch squares in it. This box was overflowing. It was wet. There was way too much in here, and so I thought this really was a last-minute decision, and it was just because this box was so full. So I thought I would take some of these squares and make prairie points, and you can go through pretty many of these squares, but this is still full. It just isn't overflowing right now. And just to do a really quick how-to, you just want to take a square and fold it in half, and then press a good crease down here, and then fold it in half again, and press a really good crease again, so that all of your raw edges are up on one end of it. And then you lay this on the very edge of the top of your quilt, and you stack these against each other. You sort of tuck this part here into the one previous to it, just a little bit. And it's so forgiving. You can put them as close together as you want or as far apart, really as you want. They don't even technically have to touch very much at all. I would make sure they touch a little bit, so you don't have blank spaces. But that's another reason why I like doing this, because you don't need precise measurements on anything. So anyway, that's what I did, and I did use up quite a few squares, but as you can see, I have a lot more to go. So that just means there's another quilt waiting to happen here. Okay, and this is my current work in progress as far as hand quilting goes. I am almost done with it. I really thought I was going to be able to finish this morning because I'm on the very outside border. So I have one more side to do. And then this is finished with the hand quilting, and I can put a binding on it. I really thought I could get this done because yesterday morning I was working on it, and then I had to like step out for a certain, a couple hours like during the day. And so when I picked it up this morning, I thought, oh, I already have 2 borders done. Yay, I'll get the other 2 done this morning. So after I did 2 borders, I came around, I saw I still have 1 more to go. So I thought I had gotten further than I did. So it was a little bit of a letdown this morning. But it's okay. It doesn't really take me too long to do these borders. So this is just a quick peek at it. In the body of the quilt, I just did straight line quilting throughout the whole thing. Because I thought since all of these stripes on all of these blocks, they all go in the same direction, I thought straight lines would look good. And I did find out what this fabric line was. It's, what was it, let me look again, Evening Mist by Sentimental Studios by Moda. And I think it's not a current line, so I don't know if you can get it anymore. But again, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It turned out much better than I kind of thought it would. I kind of thought it was going to be a little more drab, but I think now it just has a really warm and cozy feel to it. So this is almost done. So the next video I have, this one will be done. So yay! Okay, and as far as what I'm working on up in my sewing room here, I have one that's going to be the next one to move along to finished state. So I've been working on this one for the past couple of days. This one I saw a pattern on Missouri Star, and the name of the episode is Anything Goes. And so I kind of sort of messed it up, but not really. It's okay. It's always okay. Because this is the finished block. And I kind of messed it up because when I had watched the video and I just sort of made a mental note of what the block looked like and the basic construction of it. So the only way that mine is different from hers is that she also put a square up here in this corner so that when all 4 blocks come together, you get a 4-patch joining. So it's not, I'm not upset about it. When I checked this morning, I saw my mistake, that I made a mistake, but it's okay. So this one too, I chose this one because now she started with a 10-inch layer cake, and I think you can cut out like all of these pieces from it. There's only like a tiny bit of waste for the one part of it. But again, because I have like my boxes of squares that are already cut, I started with a 4.5-inch square in the center, which I already have in my stack. And then I went to my 5-inch squares, and I would need 2 of them because when she was using a 10-inch pack, so she was able to get all her cuts from one. So from a 5-inch square, I can get 2 of these. So that's why I needed 2 5-inch squares here. And then from these in the corner also, these also measure at 2.5 cut and 2 inches finished. So I also have stacks of 2.5-inch squares that I save. So that wasn't a problem either. So that's a good use of all of my scraps that I have saved. And then for this part here, she did hers differently. I made mine as a flying geese unit. She did hers with the stitch and flip triangles, which I personally, I would rather make a flying geese unit. I don't really like the stitch and flips because of the waste that you get, but it's just personal choice. You get the same effect in the end. And I decided to keep all of my flying geese units for the whole quilt the same color to give it some continuity. And I chose this fabric here. Again, this is kind of why I don't really give too much information on my fabric, because you can't get these things anymore. The selvage says it's made by Fabric Traditions, and the date is 2013. So it's pretty old. But I like the fabric, and I like that it's kind of brightens things up a little bit, because a lot of my scraps I feel like are a little bit darker. So that's what's going on in this box. And so I have a lot of pieces here that are ready to go. These are for the longer side, and then this is for the first side that I put on, and then this will be for the second side. So I have a lot of them ready to go, and so that's what's going on in this box here. And I have some more if I need to make some more blocks. I have some more cut here. And I also used the flying geese. I started off with, for the bigger pieces here, this is a 5.5 inch square. And I used the wing clipper ruler to make my flying geese units, and this is by Deb Tucker, Studio 180, and I really do recommend this. This is so good. This really gives you really good accurate pieces. But as you know, there's a lot of different ways to make flying geese units, and use what works for you. So that's one of my projects that I have going on up here right now. And because I've kind of been on a kick about getting things more organized and cleaned up, I attacked this box here, which has been sitting on my shelf literally for years. I always knew it was there, and it was always going to be one day, I'll take care of everything that's in here. So I have this labeled strip sets. This was when I first started trying to organize my scraps. I would just sew random things literally together in strip sets. And then I thought, well, they can kind of go on the back of a quilt, or something. These actually, I could probably subcut these and get some 9 patches out of them. But here they sit, unused. This was left over from a project. I was making 9 patches again, so I have tons of these strip sets with the reds. I don't have as many with the whites, with the 2 whites. Again, because I was done with that project, it was sort of, I cleared out my mind and I was just done with it. So anyway, this box just held so many just different kind of parts like that. So I did come in here one day, and this was like almost overflowing. So I did clear out a lot of it, and I feel a lot better. There's still some more work to do, but for now I'm okay with that. So I'll show you what I did with some of the things that were in there. By now you've probably seen that the back of my quilts, a lot of times I have to put a little piece on just to make it a little bit wider. The 45-inch fabric, till you cut all the selvages off and then rejoin it with a seam, it's never quite enough. I always need like just a little bit more. So I end up putting a strip in a lot of my quilts, not all of them, but a lot. So that's what's on this hanger now. And I keep this in my closet. And again, I just kind of have things now that are ready to go. And I will try to pick out something that coordinates pretty well with the quilt that I'm working on. This one here I just did, and this one came from pieces that were left over from this quilt that I did, the Carolina chain. These were all of these the longer pieces here. There are two smaller pieces on either side and then a longer one here. So I had a lot left over because I didn't know how big I wanted to make the quilt. And once I started cutting, I clearly cut way too many. So no big deal. I just kind of sewed together the rest of them. And now this can be a strip for the back of a quilt. So I was happy to get that done. Here's one that was again, just some 4 patches, and I have it labeled that this is 80 inches. So that, and these are obviously just reds and pinks. So that gives me an idea, or at least something to start with. And then some of these others here came out of this box. So you can see what I meant by just sewing strip sets here. And this was before I was really trying to match my colors up or make sure things were more coordinated. So this kind of is more a kitchen sink kind of thing. You know, everything kind of goes in here. There's some vintage fabrics in here. There's just everything that goes in those. But that's a nice wide strip. And then there was another one I started. There's a lot of men's shirts in here, but not exclusively. There's all kinds of stuff. So that also came out of this box. Here's another one that's really pretty long. This one had been started in the box, in this box here, and I was really surprised at how much green I still had. So yeah, so that's good. I'm glad that that one's all green. And then this one also, I guess I had started cutting my those long strips just into squares, and then sort of started to make sort of like a basket weave kind of pattern out of them. So this one's kind of a hot mess too, but it will end up in a quilt somewhere at some point. So I have pretty much to choose from right now. And again, I feel really good that I got that much work done, and that my box is now more organized and it's emptier, and I have things ready to go, and I have choices with different colors and different designs. Okay, so for right now, I feel pretty good about the shape that my sewing table's in. I do try and kind of cut things down into usable pieces or take care of them like as they're occurring, but I still have this little stack of things here that I have to do something with. And these are left over from the star quilt, the one that I used the brown jelly roll with. These are the green tips for the star points. And again, I cut too many. I don't know what I was thinking. But they're a funny shape. And so they're not going to be easy to just, you know, put into like another block. That's why they're still on my table. I know what I have to do. I've been dragging my feet. I have to make more stars because I will use a star, but as these shapes are right now, nothing, you know, nothing will come from them. So I do have to make some stars, just haven't gotten to that yet. And then from the Carolina chain, again, this pattern again, that quilt is now basted, so I won't be making any more blocks from it. And like I just showed you, I did use the longer pieces there to make a strip set for the back of a future quilt, but I still have a lot of the single squares left here that are here. And they're not a size I normally use. These are cut at, what are they cut at? 2 inches, I think. Yeah, they're cut at 2 inches. And I don't really work with that size very often. That's why they're still here. But I think I can join them with, I have a few pieces that are left over yet that are 2 inches by 4 inches cut. So I think if I join them somehow, I could probably make another strip set for the back of a quilt. I just haven't gotten that far yet. So these are still on my sewing table. And these things I leave out until I actually do something and take care of it. I don't like to just, you know, tuck these into a corner on the side somewhere, because that's when things get forgotten about and that's how things pile up. So I do try to keep on top of things the best I can. I'm not perfect, and I get easily distracted too by wanting to start the next project. So for now, these are staying on my sewing table until one day the mood will strike me to pick them up and actually do something with them. And when I do make something with them, I'll share them with you. Okay, and one last thing I kind of wanted to talk about today is because it's the new year and everybody is either decluttering, organizing, or setting new goals for the year. I just kind of wanted to talk about my thoughts on all of that. As far as decluttering goes, I'm not doing anything because I like everything that I have here. And how I have things organized and my workflow, it may not look pretty, but it works for me really well. I know where everything is. I have a system. It's not necessarily one that I have ever written down, but kind of in my head, I have a workflow. I kind of have a feeling, an internal feeling of how long things should take me. And if they've sat too long, I need to work on them and get them moving along. So as far as decluttering and organizing, I think I'm good on that. Um, Now, as far as goals go, I never really set goals per se because I kind of work on a whim most of the time. I'll see something that will spark me and I will just kind of start working on it right away. Having said that though, I do write down some ideas and they're kind of broader ideas or more general ideas. And I usually just have this piece of paper taped up on my wall. And I only just started writing this down last year because I had retired last year. And there are always kind of things that I think about doing, and then the next thing kind of jumps in line because I see something else and I want to start it right away. And then eventually, the original idea just kind of seems to never get done. So I started this last year. So you can see everything that I crossed off, I did all that last year. But I have since then added a few more things onto the list. And that doesn't necessarily mean in my head that I have to do that and I will be upset if I don't get this done. It's more just so that it's a little reminder because also some of my fabrics too are kind of tucked away in boxes that it's one of those things. I know they're there, but they're not like right there. They're kind of, they have lids on. I don't really see them or handle them a lot. So last year I did make a bear paw with blue shirts. That was one. I did make a brown quilt last year. I did make an orphan block quilt last year. I did make a red tumbler quilt. Actually, that wasn't last year. I think that was the year before. Also the year before, I did make a wedding ring quilt. I made a quilt with ties, and then I used the jelly roll. I have jelly roll courthouse steps because that's the one that I'm almost finished hand piecing now. My first initial idea was I was going to make a courthouse steps with that jelly roll, but that didn't pan out. So then some of the other things on here, I have a whole bin full of homespun fabrics, and I really want to make something with them. I just don't have a pattern in mind. And also vintage fabrics. I have accumulated a lot of vintage fabrics over the years, which I just love. And I'm just trying to find like just the right pattern that the pieces are big enough that you can really see the fabric really well. I don't really want to cut them too small. And then I just basically have a 9 patch on here, and in my mind I wanted to make really small 9 patches, which I actually am kind of working on that, sort of. I started. So this was my idea for the 9 patches, to make a little plus quilt. So this is going to be another one of those that is I'm going to sort of work on in the background. I'm not going to actually go through my yardage and cut anything for these. I'm going to accumulate this fabric as I make other quilts. Every time I make a quilt, when I have leftover pieces from that quilt, from trimming or cutting or just too small to put back on the shelf, this is where all of those leftover pieces will go. So it's not very far along, and that's okay. I expect this one to take me a couple of years to do because I want these pieces to happen organically without pulling from my shelves. So that is my 9 patch. Another one I want to make is a pattern called Burgoyne Surrounded. I made one of those before, and apparently I either sold it or gave it away, and every time I see the picture of that in my scrapbook now, I'm really sad. I really liked it. It was a red and white one, and now that I'm intentionally trying to start a red and white collection, I'm really sad that I gave that one away. But it's okay because I know how to make another one. Another one I want to make is the Hunter Star. I've always liked that block, and I have 2 different ways that I can make that. That might actually be very current on my to-do list. And then the last one was for my birthday last year. I got a beautiful bundle of fabric. I think it's Robert Kaufman fabric. And I'm waiting to see just the right pattern to make that. But because all of that is in a bag and in a separate place, I want to keep that all together. That's not right out in the open where I see it all the time. And so I don't want to forget about that. So that's my list. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these transfer over, even to the next year. And that's okay because I usually do get to a point then where if I see it long enough, it's like, okay, now I have to stop dragging my feet and do something about it. So let me know what your goals are and what you're planning on working on, because this is the time of year, at least in the northern hemisphere here, where the weather's getting cold. We're supposed to get some snow coming up in a couple of days. The holidays are over. So it's time to hunker down in your sewing room and get some stuff done. So I hope you guys have some good goals set for yourselves too. And the next video too, I've been getting a lot of questions and comments on my sewing room as far as like sort of how I organize things or how I think about my scraps and what my system kind of is. So that will be my next video. So if you're kind of stuck on, again, like maybe clutter piling up because you just don't know how to handle all of that, watch the next video. And even if just one of the things I do helps you, you're a step ahead then. And it might trigger something for you to kind of do what works for you then too. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Take care.